questions. Whenever you're ready, Coach.
Okay, certainly, when you look at the game the other day, I thought I'm pleased to get the win, to be able to fight and battle the way that our guys are fighting right now. It was special to find a way to come up with an interception to win a game. We've got to do that twice now, and those are always rewarding for a defense. They're always special moments, right, to be able to step up when it matters most, and certainly we were able to do that in the game. I think our guys have an appreciation for finding a way to win, and yet players and coaches alike, there's certainly an urgency to continue to build and grow as a football team so that we can be the team that we feel like we are capable of being as we continue to navigate through SEC play. We had from a chance defensively to be explosive. We had 13 game changers, 12 was our goal, 4 takeaways, 4 sacks, 3 3-and-outs, and then 2 4th down stops, including a missed field goal. From what we call the double positives, the explosive plays given up, and then the turnover margin. We had 9 explosives on offense. We gave up 5 on defense. We gave up 1 explosive run and 4 passes. And then obviously we won the turnover margin by +2. So that really probably being the key to the game as much as anything from a defensive perspective is when you can take the ball away from somebody 4 different times, that's certainly going to make it hard to be able to navigate against. I thought as the game went on, they had some really good wrinkles, and I thought we adjusted pretty well to some of those things. They were doing some different run game out of 12 personnel that they had not shown. Some Dow Loggins, their offensive coordinator, has always done a tremendous job. Had some different wrinkles that they were doing. I thought we adjusted to that pretty well on the fly. Credit our defensive staff and our players for making those adjustments. And it gave us a chance to get off the field on 3rd down in the second half, but we did not do that nearly to the consistency that I think that we are capable of, or that we need to be in order to be a consistent defense. We started out the first half, we went 5-0 on 3rd down, got off the field, and then gave up a 4th and 9, which is just obviously an unacceptable play and an error on our part from a execution standpoint. And then we started off the second half going 0 for 5 on 3rd down, and then came back and went 3 for 5 in the last 5 3rd downs. And so that continues to be an area where we are not operating at an optimum level. If we want to be the defense that I think we are capable of being, we have to execute at a more consistent level on 3rd down. When you look at it, there certainly were some challenging things that USC presented for us, but particularly on 3rd down, it was a lack of execution on our part, putting our eyes in the right place, doing our job at a consistent level. And so those are things that we've got to continue to do, and that's not just in pass coverage. Some of it was in pass rush. I do think we took some steps in the right direction from a pass rush standpoint, where we were able to generate pressure on the quarterback. I think that's part of why we were able to get takeaways in the game. We were able to get sacks in the game, but we're still not optimizing our ability to rush as a unit on a consistent basis, and then play coverage on a consistent basis on 3rd down, and particularly in 4th down. So those are certainly the areas that we've got to emphasize as we moving forward, as we navigate ourselves moving forward into playing Tennessee. With that, looking ahead to Tennessee, I think Josh Heupel's just done a fantastic job over the last few years with their program. I think they have continued to improve the overall talent level of their roster. I think they are playing with more depth as a football team, and then there's a number of explosive playmakers that they can get the ball to. I think their running back is elite. I think he has done Sampson, I believe, right, is his last name. Really impressive what he's been able to do. I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. He's got really good patience in their run schemes. He will make guys miss at the point of contact, constantly creating yards after contact as well. And then some very explosive athletes on the outside that when they've been able to get the ball out there to them, they've had tremendous success on offense. And that's something that, they are a team that on any given down can create an explosive play. And so that's something that we're going to have to be very mindful of. We're going to have to be very thorough as a defense. And I think ultimately it's going to be about our consistency doing the same high-level job over and over again in order to play, at an optimal level on Saturday. So looking forward to the competition, looking forward to going to Neyland Stadium, and we're going to have a great week of practice and preparation to get ready for it.
Thanks, Coach. Let's start on the right side with Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach, kind of a two-part question. Just how would you assess your defense's tackling, and where do you stand on maybe when the players stand defenders up trying to get the ball out rather than just trying to take it to the ground?
Yeah, I think fine line, to answer your second question first, I think there's a fine line there of trying to create takeaways, right? The first man to the ball always needs to make sure that he is securing the tackle. Second man, right, can work to a position to be able to try to get the ball out. More often than not, you see creating a takeaway or a fumble with maybe at the point of attack. Usually when a guy gets wrapped up, he starts to secure the ball at a little bit higher level. That's not always the case. Sometimes with a quarterback or somebody trying to work to get out of the pocket, from a quarterback in the pocket standpoint. But for us, I think we've got to continue to harp on the fundamentals of how we're tackling. When we don't operate with a hard shoulder tackle, all of a sudden we're giving up some yards after contact. I think we have been inconsistent from a tackling standpoint. A lot of that is making sure that we're leveraging the ball properly in vision coverage and that we're driving the ball. So now, there's less space, right, that we can take away from before the ball, the guy even starts to get going. So I think there's certainly room for error. That improvement there, that's something that you constantly are going to continue to work throughout the season, and teams like Tennessee are going to force you to make space tackles over and over again. So it's critical that we continue to improve.
Left side, Chase.
When Arkansas held Tennessee to 14 points a couple weeks ago, they did it playing a lot of dime. You don't seem to be the biggest fan of playing 6 DBs, but when Tennessee goes empty with their vertical threats and the receivers get those splits all the way out to the sideline, does that force any DC to look at playing dime?
Well, I think I think when you look at what this team is, this is a run football team. They are spreading you out with their receiver splits so that they can establish one-on-ones in the run game, and that they can basically say, they're going to separate the pass coverage from the box responsibility and who's leveraging those plays. So for us, based off of the different personnel groupings they have and based off the formations that they're going to come out in, we're going to have to be able to defend the lateral space and the vertical space on the outside, but also make sure that we're leveraging the box, because this is a run football team. They want to establish the run, and then they set that up to take shots downfield. So I think for us, you don't want to get too far away from home base, who you are and what you do. But from a personnel package standpoint, we're always going to look at, whatever we think is the optimal, scheme and personnel to get our players in the right position.
Jump over to the right side here, Nick.
Yeah, having coached against USF in week 2, how does that help you in preparation for facing Tennessee now?
Well, I think, you look at a lot of the things that we have to do through the week of preparation. One of the hardest things to do when you're dealing with a team that has non-traditional formations and the wide splits, and they're going tempo as fast as you've seen from anybody you face, being able to manufacture that in practice every day is the hardest thing that we have to do. And so our scout teams have gotten reps at some of those things. We've looked at what worked well that week and what we needed to improve on, just in terms of the look that we had to give. And so that probably as much as anything is a help. Certainly there's things that that we put on tape, right, that they're going to look at, we're going to look at. But really each game is even though they're in the same system, and it is the same system, what Tennessee is doing versus what South Florida is doing, there are enough differences there, and they have different identities in terms of what they're trying to get accomplished. So certainly from a week of preparation be something that's huge for our scout teams.
Go to Alex in the middle there.
When you see the errors in execution, does it cause you to pull back on what you'd like to call as the play caller? And then just how do you think about the value of just simplicity versus throwing a bunch of wrinkles at the opponent?
Yeah, no, that's ultimately the give and take that we're trying to look at every single week. What can we go execute at a high level and do it consistently, and yet still have enough wrinkles that we're not a vanilla defense that teams feel like, okay, they're able to lock in and attack. And I think, early on we showed a few different things to set some things up as we navigated into SEC play. So now we've started to show more of those wrinkles. We were able to show a lot more this past week from a standpoint of some pressures and some little nuances and change-ups that we had not shown before. And we'll keep throwing some of those wrinkles in as we go. That's one of the things that are an advantage, right, as a first-year defense, right? There's always going to be some wrinkles and things that you go and throw in. I felt like in the game, you want to make sure that you are simple enough, right, so that our players can go execute. That's constantly the battle that we're looking at. Okay, what are we doing on third down and fourth down that we didn't execute well enough? Okay, well, is it, if it's an execution issue, is it something that we can call differently? We limit some of the things that we're calling, we get really good at this, or we're going to manufacture some pressure through something else from a scheme perspective. So, I don't mean to be too vague, but I also don't want to give away the house there. But I think there's a fine line there of what we need to be able to do. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what we call. If we can't execute it to consistency, we're going to have a problem. Some of that is just the growing pains of a new defense in year one, and that we're going to have to continue to work through. So you can't sit there and throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, right? Where all of a sudden now you're saying, hey, I'm going to get rid of this call that's been very beneficial for us over the years, and we're going to get rid of it because we didn't execute it well enough in week 2, 3, 4. When in week 6, 7, and 8, if we'll just continue to stay at our process, I think those things will come to fruition.
Stay on the left side with Katie.
What did you learn about your depth at corner when Damani was out for a little bit in that game? You saw some of the younger guys rotating in, and just kind of how vital is Damani's experience at that position?
Well, Damani's experience has shown up in a number of ways, and he stepped up in some big moments. Obviously, having the interception at the end of the game, credit him coming back from getting banged up in the game and to be able to fight back. I think, Damani is operating with a lot of maturity, a lot of mental toughness. And then, he has really kind of helped set the tone for that room, along with Coach Lindquist is doing a tremendous job with those young players and building continuity in their technique and their fundamentals so that they can go out and execute to the highest level of their ability right on game day. And so, when a couple of guys go down and those guys have to be called upon, you're either ready or you're not, right? And so for those guys, I thought it was good for them to get in there, to get some meaningful quality reps. I think Jalen Mbakwe stepped up in some really big moments as well, and so encouraged to see some of that youth gain experience in meaningful SEC games.
Let's go to the front row on the right here, Kenny.
Two-part question. When you went back and watched the fourth down touchdown conversion, what did you see that led to that coverage bust, and what type of teaching moment does that present?
Yeah, so often what happens in coverage, right, is a domino effect of one player doesn't do something, so now another player gets ready to compensate for it, and then all of a sudden, you may have taken away their first or second read, but ultimately, if you give the quarterback time, right, we're gonna have an issue. And so doing our job, our 1/11 of the defense is critical, right? And that's something that we keep, harping on to our players of, make sure that you are focused on your responsibility and your job within the framework of the defense, and trust that everyone else is going to do their job as well. And so we had a breakdown in terms of, playing over top of a route that we should have been expanding on in that particular coverage. But there were other pieces that did not help in terms of being where they needed to be at the beginning of the play, so that we could leverage things out properly in terms of our spacing in that coverage. And then, you know, again, I think our pass rush has taken some really great steps. But, you know, also when you're not getting pressure and you're giving time for those long developing plays on third down, that makes it challenging as well. So a little bit of across the board, right? You've got to continue to operate consistency, and it's all 11 guys doing their job, or often in those critical moments, something's going to break down.
We got time for 2 more questions. We're gonna start with Tony here on the left.
The last 2 weeks we've seen teams kind of hit you with that inside shovel. How difficult is that to defend, and how do you kind of correct that moving forward?
I think that, you know, that particular play, we've seen, you know, I guess, probably Tebow and those guys at Florida were one of the first ones that started doing that in what was that, the, you know, late 2000s, and you know, it's kind of been sprinkled in. When teams, you know, sprinkle it in just here and there, it's really challenging for your guys up front, some of their eye progression, because you're getting an action at you that looks like sprint out for a quarterback or option for a quarterback, and then all of a sudden they're pitching the ball back underneath behind us trying to pursue. And so you got to be very disciplined and very detailed in doing that, and then obviously your backside pursuit has to be able to fit and get back over top. So it's a challenging play. It's a really good wrinkle. It's one that we're probably going to continue to see every single week, and so we're looking at the different ways that they can do those plays and that they can run those things so that we can be prepared, you know, for what nobody's going to do it exactly the same way necessarily, right? But they're going to have their own nuance, and so it's, you know, again, it's a hard play that we've got to get prepared for.
All right, let's finish up with Colin here, left side.
Hey, we were talking a lot about early in the season about Weber's his development. I'm curious, over the past few weeks, what have you seen from his development? It seems like he's not seeing as many snaps over the course of the past few weeks. What have you seen from his development?
Yeah, you know, Quay, obviously it was getting healthy. The last couple of weeks here has gotten himself into a position where I think he's healthy and back and ready to go. And so we had him on a little bit of a pitch count, you know, as we were working through these last couple of weeks. Feel like he's in a really good position moving forward. I think he continues to do some really good things on film, and so excited about kind of his full week of preparation, you know, being a little bit, you know, more 100%, if you will. I don't know if anybody's ever 100% as you go through the season, but healthier than he was the last couple of weeks. And so I have been pleased with some of the things that he's doing when he does get in the games, and I think that he has a chance, you know, to create some impact in meaningful moments.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks guys, roll tide.